You quiet your spirit now, almost without realizing you're doing it, as if something unseen has gently placed a hand on your shoulder and asked you to pause. You don't step away from your life. You simply step inward, into a stillness that doesn't feel like silence at all. It feels like recognition. You sense it before you try to name it. A soft pull that gathers your attention and turns it toward a presence that already knew you would arrive here. You're not imagining this moment. It isn't a coincidence or a passing thought you'll forget in a few minutes. You feel it settle around you and within you, like a truth you've brushed against before but never fully held. You don't have to force anything. You don't have to pretend to be more composed, more spiritual, or more prepared than you are. This moment doesn't ask you to perform. It simply invites you to notice. And the longer you sit inside this stillness, the more you sense that you're not the one who created it. It's been waiting, quietly, patiently, intentionally. You are the one who has finally stepped into it. You begin to feel the weight of a presence that doesn't overwhelm you, but surrounds you with a kind of gentleness you don't receive often. It feels like being seen without being judged. It feels like being recognized without having to explain yourself. It feels like being addressed by name, even though no sound breaks the air. And you're aware, deeply aware, that this presence has something to say to you. You don't rush it. You just breathe. And with each breath you hear the quiet beginnings of a message meant for you alone. You sense a warmth rising in your chest, a clarity forming behind your thoughts, a subtle shift in your awareness that says, stay here, don't turn away, don't let anything distract you. You feel the truth of that instruction because you know moments like this don't happen randomly. This isn't the routine noise of a busy world. This is the opposite. An opening carved out of time itself, calling you by a voice you recognize even if you can't remember when you first learned to recognize it. You stand at the beginning of something, though it doesn't look dramatic or loud. It's simple, quiet, direct, and yet you can feel that it carries the weight of something sacred. The presence around you feels patient but not indifferent, gentle but not weak, firm but not harsh. It feels like someone who has been watching you, not with distance, but with an attentiveness that you've rarely felt from anyone else. You hear the first words in the way you feel them more than the way you hear them. You're here because I brought you here. You let that sink in, not because you're trying to make sense of it, but because your spirit already knows it's true. You can sense that you didn't wander into this moment by mistake. Something guided you through distractions, through doubts, through the noise of everything else, to this one breath, this one pause, this one opening. And now the presence that's been waiting finally begins to speak. You're told to stay present, not later, not when you feel more settled, not when life slows down enough for you to breathe more easily. Right now. Because this moment is a doorway, and you can feel it. You sense that if you step away, the door won't slam shut in anger, but it will pass, and you'll know you missed something precious, something that was for you alone. You feel the tenderness in the words spoken to your spirit, my beloved one, and you don't recoil from them. They don't feel exaggerated or out of place. They feel accurate. They feel earned. They feel like they come from someone who has watched you quietly through seasons where no one else saw the truth of how hard things really were for you. Someone who has stayed close even when you had no strength left for closeness. You're told that this moment carries meaning you cannot measure yet. You don't feel pressured, you feel awakened. It's almost like the air around you shifts, becoming sharper, clearer, charged with an understanding you haven't fully grasped but can already sense the shape of. You feel the presence urging you not to postpone this, not to assume you can return later, because something about this exact moment is uniquely attuned to your spirit. There's no fear in this urging, only love that refuses to let you drift through life unaware of what's being offered to you. You sense a deep intention behind every word. This presence doesn't speak carelessly or fill the moment with unnecessary explanations. You feel spoken to with purpose, with direction, with affection that doesn't need to announce itself loudly to be felt fully. You begin to understand that you've been led here not just to be comforted, but to be awakened. and that realization settles into your spirit with a seriousness you don't try to resist. You feel the reality of it, the truth of it, and you feel how deeply personal it is. There's a gentle heaviness in the air, the kind that comes when you realize you're standing in a moment that matters. You feel the presence urging you to stay centered, stay open, stay attentive, because what is being spoken is not simply encouragement. It is direction, invitation, guidance. It is a call. You're reminded that this moment isn't common, that it has been prepared long before you reached it, and you sense how real that is. You think back to the days, the hours, the long stretches of time that led you here, and suddenly they feel connected, not random, not wasted. They feel like steps that were quietly guiding you toward this encounter. You begin to feel how deeply seen you are, not in a distant or symbolic way, but in a way that reaches your core. You sense that every unspoken burden, every moment you felt invisible or forgotten, every quiet fear and hidden exhaustion is fully known by the presence speaking to you. And instead of feeling exposed, you feel understood. You feel held. You remain in this stillness, allowing the words to continue shaping your awareness. You're told that this moment is not just a pause, it's a turning, a shift, a beginning. And even though you don't yet see the full picture of what's being unfolded, you feel ready to listen, ready to receive, ready to step deeper into whatever is calling you. You don't hurry, you don't force clarity, you just remain open. The presence stays with you, steady and patient, and you understand, perhaps for the first time in a long time, that you are exactly where you're meant to be. You inhale slowly, and with that breath you step fully into the summons that has been waiting just for you. You feel the moment deepen as you move from stillness into an awareness that almost startles you with its clarity. It's as if time itself reshapes around you, not slowing, not speeding, but sharpening. You sense the gravity of now in a way you rarely allow yourself to feel. You realize you're being asked to notice something essential, something you've overlooked not out of intention, but out of weariness. And the presence that surrounds you doesn't hesitate to reveal why this exact instant matters. You're told again, softly but with unmistakable urgency, that this moment is not accidental. You feel the truth of that settle into your bones. You've brushed past moments like this before, moments when you sensed something stirring inside you but pushed it aside because life demanded your attention elsewhere. But this time is different. You know it, even if you can't explain why. You feel the presence urging you gently, firmly to stay in the now, because the now is where something holy is unfolding. You're reminded that time isn't as loose and endless as you often assume. You move through days thinking each one is just another repetition of the last. But here, standing in this quiet space, you sense how mistaken that belief is. You're told that every beat of time from this point forward carries significance you won't fully understand yet. And somehow you don't feel overwhelmed by that idea. You feel awakened by it. It stirs something inside you, something that's been asleep or buried under the noise of ordinary days. You feel the presence speak to you with a certainty that doesn't demand explanation. This is the moment I prepared for you. This is the season that has opened. The doorway I uncovered before you even knew to look for it. You sense the weight of those words. Not heavy in a burdensome way, but heavy in the way a long-awaited truth feels when it finally arrives. You're told not to turn away, not to put off what's unfolding, and you don't want to. Something in you leans forward, attentive and willing, even as another part of you trembles with worn-out caution. You're shown why postponing this moment would cost you more than you realize. Not because you'd be punished, but because certain blessings, certain opportunities, certain shifts in your spirit only happen in specific windows of time. You feel the truth of that resonate in places inside you that words don't easily reach. You think back to all the times you told yourself you had more time, that later would be better, that you'd be more prepared in another season. The presence speaks into that pattern with gentle honesty. Some doors don't remain open forever. Some moments require your immediate yes. You're not being threatened. You're being protected. You feel that difference clearly. You sense the presence loosening things within you. Old fears, old hesitations, old distractions that usually tug at you with so much force. But here, in this moment, they lose their grip. The air around you feels charged, almost vibrating with potential. You feel the presence telling you that something is shifting in this very breath. Not tomorrow, not later, now. You realize the urgency isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to awaken you to what's happening in real time. The presence tells you plainly, I am uncovering a way meant for you. I am setting things in motion for you. And if you turn away now, you turn away from the very moment designed for your advancement. Those words strike something deep in you, not as a reprimand, but as revelation. You've spent so much of your life believing that your moments of breakthrough would be loud or obvious. But here you are being taught that the sacred often arrives quietly, and that you must learn to recognize it before it passes. You're reminded that the world around you will never slow down on its own. You feel that truth in your chest. Every day comes with more noise, more distraction, more urgency that isn't sacred, but feels urgent anyway. But this presence pierces through all of it, calling you back to what truly matters. You sense concern, not frustration, as the voice speaks about the forces that push you toward postponement. You're told that the impulse to delay, to shut down, to ignore this moment, doesn't come from the one speaking to you now. The clarity of that statement settles your spirit. You've often blamed yourself for being hesitant, for struggling to respond, but now you understand that hesitation has been shaped by influences outside you. Doubt, fear, weariness, voices that don't belong to the presence holding you here. You're reminded that you've been asking for a sign, for direction, for clarity. You've asked for confirmation in whispered prayers, in silent thoughts, in moments of frustration or exhaustion. And now the presence tells you gently, this is the sign. This is the answer. This is the direction. You pause, letting that truth land. You realize you've been waiting for something dramatic, something undeniable, something wrapped in certainty big enough to silence all your doubts. But this quiet presence, this sacred urgency, this unmistakable pull, is the answer you've been begging for. You feel your heart open, almost involuntarily. The presence speaks with tenderness and conviction. Do not cast aside what you have waited for. Stay here. Take in every word. This is the pathway to your coming journey. You sense the seriousness, but you also sense the love woven into every syllable. This presence is not pushing you forward out of impatience. It's guiding you with the care of someone who has watched over your steps long before you ever recognized that guidance. You're told that hesitation not only slows your progress, but threatens your protection. That hits you with unexpected clarity. You've never considered that your delays might expose you to traps laid in your path, places where you might stumble, not because you're weak, but because you paused when you needed to move. The presence reveals this not to frighten you, but to open your eyes. I see what draws near. I understand what tries to mislead you. And I call you now so that you won't walk into harm meant for you. You feel a wave of gratitude rise in your chest. Not dramatic, but deep. You realize that what's being asked of you isn't blind courage. It's trust in timing that isn't yours to orchestrate. You're reminded once more. This is the moment. This is the season. This is the opening meant for you. And you finally understand why the urgency is so strong. You are not being rushed. You are being aligned. You inhale again, feeling the fullness of the present moment settle inside you, knowing you're standing in a point of time that will not come again in this exact way. You stay. You listen. You receive. Because the weight of now has finally revealed itself to you. You feel the atmosphere shift again. Not away from urgency, but toward a deeper unveiling. As you remain present, the voice that has been guiding you gently turns your attention inward, not to your strengths or accomplishments, but to the places you've tried hardest to hide. You don't brace yourself. Strangely, you feel safe enough not to. Something in you recognizes what's coming, and instead of resisting, you open. The presence doesn't rush, doesn't pry, doesn't push. It simply brings a soft light to the parts of you that have lived in shadow for too long. You begin to feel memories rise, not in a chaotic flood, but in a slow, deliberate unfurling. It's as if the presence is walking you back through the long corridors of your own life, pausing at the places where you were most wounded, most tired, most unseen, and instead of turning away, it stands with you at each one. You remember the nights you carried more than you could speak. You remember the hours you lay awake, not because you wanted to, but because your mind refused to quiet. You remember rehearsing conversations you never had, arguments you didn't finish, fears that stuck to you as tightly as the blankets you curled under. You remember wishing for rest, not just sleep, but peace, the kind of peace that could settle your thoughts, not just your body. You feel the presence say gently, "I was there in every moment you thought no one noticed." And something inside you gives way, not in weakness, but in recognition. You're shown the mornings when you forced yourself to stand, even though you woke depleted. The days you hid your emotions behind practiced expressions. The evenings when you smiled through gatherings, even though your spirit felt worn down to threads. You see how often you moved through the world as if your inner life didn't matter, as if the wounds no one else acknowledged needed to be ignored simply because they weren't visible. Yet here, in this sacred moment, you finally hear the truth. Every hidden struggle was fully known. You feel those words settle somewhere deep. For years, you assumed that because people missed what you carried, the weight must not have been significant. You told yourself to endure quietly, cope privately, press forward without making noise. But now, the presence speaks into that silence. You were never unseen, not even once. You see flashes of moments that broke you in ways you couldn't explain, trust that was shattered without warning, promises that crumbled when you needed them most, relationships you held with care only to find yourself holding pieces when they slipped away, some wounds you didn't even tell anyone about because you weren't sure they would understand, or worse, you feared they wouldn't care. The presence lingers tenderly at those memories, and you hear, "I saw every betrayal. I felt every sting. I watched every departure that left you aching." There's no judgment in the words, only compassion that feels impossibly wide. You remember how alone you felt in those seasons. You remember standing in crowded spaces feeling invisible. You remember talking to people while holding entire storms inside your chest. You remember pretending ease so others wouldn't worry or withdraw. You remember wondering if you would ever be known, truly known, without having to explain yourself endlessly. And here, in this quiet, you're told with unmistakable gentleness, "When they overlooked you, I drew closer. When they disregarded you, I held you. When they spoke untruths, I confirmed what was real about you." You don't feel the need to defend yourself anymore. For the first time, the validation you've long wanted from people arrives in a form far more meaningful. It isn't flattery, it isn't comfort meant to soothe temporarily. It's truth spoken by a presence that has watched every chapter of your story unfold. You feel the presence saying, "Your spirit is engraved upon my heart." And those words free something inside you that's been locked tight for years. You think of the countless times you asked silently, "Does anyone see me? Does anyone really know what I'm carrying?" And now you hear the answer you didn't realize you'd been waiting for. "I never looked away, not once." Memories rise of the moments you broke down quietly, behind closed doors or in the solitude of your thoughts. The tears you wiped quickly in case someone walked in. The questions that formed in your chest when life felt like too much. You see them clearly now, not with shame, but with a strange kind of relief, because every one of those moments was witnessed, not by someone who pitied you, but by someone who stayed. You feel the presence say, "I heard the prayers you couldn't speak. I felt the sorrow before it reached your eyes. I understood what you could not express." There's no condemnation here, only recognition. You start to understand why this moment carries so much weight. You've been asked to receive what's being said now because you need to know, before you step into the new path ahead, that none of your pain was wasted, none of your endurance unnoticed, none of your tears unseen. You're being reminded that your story has never been lived in isolation, even when it felt like you were walking through silence. You feel the presence speak over the wounds that shaped you. Every rejection you felt, I felt beside you. Every loneliness you endured, I covered with my nearness. Every fear you carried, I shared, and not a single tear fell without my awareness. These words don't feel abstract. They feel personal, specific, and intimately tied to experiences you've tried to forget. You sense the truth rising and settling into places you didn't know had been starving for this kind of gentleness. You remember moments when you almost gave up, the times you thought, I can't do this anymore. And now you hear, I was the strength you didn't know you had. I was the courage that rose when you wanted to surrender. You remember feeling forgotten. You hear, I never forgot you. You remember feeling abandoned. You hear, I never left you. You remember feeling unseen. You hear, I watched over you without pause. Your heart softens under the weight of a truth you didn't believe you were allowed to feel. You were loved, even in your lowest moments. The present speaks once more, carefully, intentionally. You are not alone. You have never been alone, and you will never be alone. You breathe that in, letting it fill the hollow spaces inside you that have been waiting for something steady to rest upon. The voice continues. I know you more deeply than anyone ever will. I know your thoughts before they form, your tears before they fall, your hopes before you whisper them. And for the first time in a very long time, you don't feel invisible. You feel known. You remain in this moment, letting every hidden place within you be met by the presence that has carried you far more gently than you ever realized. You don't rush. You don't resist. You simply let yourself be seen, completely, honestly, effortlessly. Because here, in this sacred pause, you understand that your hidden sorrows were never hidden at all. You feel the atmosphere tilt again, this time not toward memory but toward movement. It's subtle at first, like a shift in pressure, a quiet brightening somewhere deep within your chest. The presence that walked with you through your hidden sorrows doesn't leave that tenderness behind. Instead, it carries it forward as it turns your attention to what lies ahead. You sense something gathering, something long prepared, something rising that doesn't feel distant anymore. It feels near, nearer than you ever expected or dared to believe. You realize you're not being comforted just to be comforted. You're being prepared. You're told gently that the waiting you've endured, those long seasons of confusion, the unanswered prayers, the closed doors that wore you down, were never signs of neglect. You feel the truth of that ripple through you. Every delay that once felt like a dismissal begins to take on a new shape in your understanding. You're shown that the pauses in your life were not empty spaces, they were foundations being quietly strengthened. You hear the presence speak into that ache you carried for so long. The delays were not denial, they were preparation. I was making your foundation strong enough to hold the blessings that would come. You let that truth settle. It reframes everything. Moments when you thought you failed, seasons when you thought nothing was happening, prayers you believed had gone unanswered. You begin to sense how different things might have been if what you asked for had arrived too soon, before you were ready, before you had the resilience to sustain it. And you feel a deep gratitude swell, not for the pain itself, but for the protection hidden inside it. You're reminded of the image of a great structure being built. It can't rise until its foundation is steady, until its weight can be carried without collapse. And suddenly your quiet seasons, your stuck seasons, your waiting seasons make a strange kind of sense. They were not evidence of abandonment, they were evidence of intention. And now, as the presence speaks, you hear a shift in tone. It's not urgency, not warning, but fulfillment. The season of waiting is ending. The time of unfolding has begun. You feel something within you respond. Your spirit leaning forward before your mind catches up. You hear the declaration clearly. What once seemed delayed will now move quickly. What What once felt unreachable will now come easily. What once drained you will now be restored. The words don't exaggerate, they resonate. You sense that what's coming will not be a slow progression but a swift shift, the kind of change that feels both sudden and deeply earned. The presence reminds you that the long stretches of silence were not wasted. Every tear, every prayer, every moment you held on by a thin thread, all of it contributed to the readiness you stand in now. You feel a quiet certainty settling into your chest. This is the moment. Everything begins to move. You're shown glimpses, not visions but impressions, of what restoration might mean for you. Not vague encouragements but tangible realities. Relationships you thought were beyond repair beginning to heal in ways you cannot orchestrate. Dreams you buried because disappointment felt safer than hope beginning to stir again. Strength returning to parts of you that have been tired for years. Opportunities appearing without force, without strain, without you having to chase them. The presence speaks over the parts of your life that have seemed barren. I am bringing new life to what you thought was lost. I am restoring what seemed beyond reach. I am opening pathways you could not see before. You breathe in slowly, almost carefully, as if you're absorbing something fragile. But the presence reassures you. This isn't fragile. This is certain. You hear? The season for new beginnings is not approaching. It has already begun. It's hard to grasp, and yet you feel the truth of it pulsing inside you, steady and undeniable. You begin to recognize that the shift is not something you must create. It's something you must receive. All your striving, all your attempts to push your life forward on your own strength, they were never meant to carry you here. This new movement is not the result of force. It is the result of timing. You sense the presence aligning things around you. People, conversations, opportunities, circumstances, in ways you could never have arranged. You feel the unseen orchestration, the pulling together of threads that once seemed frayed and unrelated. It becomes clear that while you felt nothing was happening, everything was happening, just not where you could see it. The presence speaks with a firmness wrapped in love. You have not been lagging behind. You have arrived precisely on time. You think of all the moments you compared yourself to others, wondering why their breakthroughs came sooner, why their paths seemed smoother, why you felt stuck while they moved forward. And now you hear the truth. Your pace was protection, not punishment. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. You're told that what would have overwhelmed you in the past will now be manageable. What once intimidated you will now feel aligned. What once confused you will now become clear. And the presence emphasizes. Do not expect a slow shift. Expect quick movement forward. Something inside you stirs. Not anxiety, but anticipation. You're being invited to release old narratives about how long things must take, how hard things must be, how far you still have to go. The presence tells you that what felt like years of stagnation will be reversed in moments of grace. You hear? I will restore the time you thought was lost. Not just the opportunities, not just the hopes. You feel the promise extend even to the hours, the seasons, the pieces of your life overshadowed by disappointment. You feel the presence assuring you that nothing has been wasted. Everything will be redeemed. You begin to sense how differently your days might look soon. Unexpected connections forming. Doors opening that you didn't even knock on. Invitations appearing you never anticipated. Clarity arriving in places where confusion lived for too long. You feel the presence saying, "These are not coincidences. These are signals of my movement in your life." You realize you're being taught how to recognize transformation, not through loud announcements, but through subtle alignment. You sense that the next steps you take will not be struggling steps, but guided ones. You're shown that the fulfillment coming your way is not only for your personal benefit. It's tied to others who are connected to your journey. Your movement forward becomes a catalyst for their movement as well. And the presence whispers, "You do not rise alone. Your steps carry others with you." The more you listen, the more you feel the shift taking root inside you. Not as theory, but as reality. You sense something unlocking in your spirit, something that once felt sealed shut. You no longer feel like someone waiting outside a closed door. You feel like someone standing at the threshold of an open one. You hear the presence affirm you once more. You have been prepared during the quiet. Now you will expand in the abundant. A calm settles over you. Not the calm of rest, but the calm of readiness. You feel the truth resonate through every part of you. The waiting has ended. The unfolding has begun, and you are ready to step into it. You feel the atmosphere draw even closer now. Not heavy, not overwhelming, but sacred in a way that makes you instinctively quiet inside. It's as though the presence that has been guiding you throughout this moment leans nearer, not needing to raise its voice, because the nearness itself carries all the weight. You sense something gathering in the unseen, a threshold, a holy border, and you finally understand why you were asked to stay, to listen, to not turn away. This moment is not only about where you've been or even where you're going. It's about what is touching your spirit right now. You feel the shift begin not around you, but within you. It starts small, an inner calm that feels deeper than anything you've known in a long time. It isn't the absence of fear. It's the presence of something greater than fear. It isn't simply quiet. It's an invitation, a subtle nudge in your spirit that says, pay attention. There's something here for you that cannot be repeated. You sense the presence whisper, not in words first, but in awareness. You are standing at a holy threshold. The stillness becomes meaningful. Every breath feels intentional. Every second feels full. You begin to understand that what is approaching isn't dramatic or loud by design. It's quiet, because only those who are willing to pause will notice it. Only those who choose to be present will receive it. You feel the presence asking you gently, almost tenderly, can you recognize the sacred when it comes softly? Can you notice me even when I arrive veiled in simplicity? You realize how many moments in your life may have carried hints of this presence, moments you dismissed as coincidence, intuition, or emotion, moments that felt like subtle pauses, inner nudges, tiny hesitations that made no sense at the time, and now you see them differently. Those were glimmers of this same presence, whispering in quiet ways because loudness was never the language of the holy. You feel the presence draw you deeper. Some of my greatest invitations do not come wrapped in clarity. They come disguised as interruptions, as small stirrings, as gentle shifts in the atmosphere. You think of the times you felt an unexplained ache that wasn't sorrow, but longing. The moments when silence felt strangely full. The times when something told you to stop for just a moment longer. Or when a sudden calm seemed to settle over your thoughts without reason. You see now that those moments were leading you here, training you to perceive what others might overlook. You hear the presence speak more clearly. This is one of those sacred junctures. This is where the seen meets the unseen, where your willingness aligns with my movement. This is not just a turning point. It is a place of spiritual nearness. You inhale steadily, and in that breath, you sense something lifting from you. Old heaviness, old doubts, old patterns of fear. They don't vanish with force. They dissolve because the presence is filling the space they occupied. You hear, you cannot enter this new beginning carrying yesterday's burdens. Release them now, for the weight of what I am bringing cannot be carried together with what you were never meant to hold. You understand that what you release in this moment matters, not because you're being tested, but because you're being prepared. The presence continues with gentle clarity. Do not bring bitterness into a season meant for joy. Do not carry worry into a chapter meant for courage. Do not hold on to hesitation when I am calling you to move. There is no accusation in these words, only deep love. Love strong enough to free you, direct you, and steady you. You realize this love is what has been guiding you all along, and this love is what opens the threshold before you now. You hear the presence say, the opposing voice wants you to delay, to question, to doubt your worthiness. But I tell you, this moment is for you. You are ready, because I have prepared you. You feel that truth ripple through you, silencing every internal argument you've made against yourself, every thought that said you weren't enough, every fear that whispered you were unworthy, every hesitation that claimed you weren't ready. All of it softens under the warmth of this presence. All of it fades beneath the truth spoken directly to your spirit. You sense the presence revealing something deeper. There is a calm that comes before transformation, a quiet that carries the weight of what is about to unfold. This is that calm. Do not mistake it for emptiness. It is fullness disguised as stillness. And suddenly, you understand what has been stirring around you. You recognize why everything in your life has felt unsettled, why certain things have fallen away, why other things have been delayed, why your heart has been stirred with longing at unexpected times. All of it was leading to this opening. All of it was preparation for what draws near now. The presence speaks again, with a softness that carries power. You have asked for my nearness, and now I am drawing close. You feel it, not as a sensation outside you, but as something awakening within you. Your spirit feels receptive, tender, attuned. The presence tells you, I do not approach without intent. I come to reveal, to restore, to guide, to fill, to transform. You can almost feel a warmth spreading through your chest, as if your inner world is being illuminated by something gentle and bright. You realize this isn't just a moment of encouragement, it's a moment of encounter. You hear the presence whisper, I have been clearing space in your heart so I could place something sacred there. Your breath catches slightly. You feel a new depth forming inside you, like a well-being carved that will soon hold something precious. You sense the presence offering you a truth you must hold tightly. Holiness is not found by those who rush. It is recognized by those who pause, those who notice, those who respond. You understand now why the earlier urgency mattered, not to frighten you, but to keep you from missing what is unfolding right here, right now. You are being invited into something rare, something timed perfectly, something shaped uniquely for your life. You hear the presence say, this invitation will not always feel this clear. That is why I call you now, to respond while your spirit can perceive my nearness with such unmistakable clarity. Your heart softens, your mind quiets, your spirit steadies. Everything in you feels aligned with what is being spoken. And then the presence extends the invitation fully. Step into this new beginning. Step without fear, step without hesitation. Step with the certainty that I go with you. You feel your spirit rise, as if standing taller within you. The threshold no longer feels distant. It stands before you, open, waiting for your step, your yes, your trust. The presence speaks one final time with a clarity that leaves no space for doubt. This is your moment. This is your opening. This is your sacred now. Walk forward with me, and in the quiet that follows, you know, you are ready, you are willing, you are stepping through